Welcome back, everybody. So my DNS proxy is running. The only thing that I have changed here is the domain. So I went ahead and I've actually registered the domain, admincutpunch.com, my first name, last name. So www.admincutpunch.com. And this domain will probably be down by the time I actually publish this video. This is the IP address as before of my virtual machine where the web server is running. And I went ahead and I created a website created a web server that is basically tied to this domain, and the static IP is there. And I've also bought an SSL certificate just so that I can demonstrate how this principle works. So this is running, the wireless access point is running, and my victim machine is actually connected to that wireless access point. Now, as I said before 100 times, you do not require this victim machine. You can use your cell phone, you can use your other machine in your house, a laptop, whatever, tablet, doesn't really matter. And here is the site that I'm going to do tests with. The reason for me actually creating this site is due to the fact that I can't really use any of the social media web servers or their domains or anything like that. I cannot compromise them in any way. Well, primarily because I don't have a permission and it's illegal. So I have created my own domain, I've created my own website, and I know what you're gonna say. Oh, remember, your website is so simple. The content of the site they're completely irrelevant. You can have anything here. You can have 100 pictures, you can have videos, whatever. I've just created the basic of the basic content for the site because the content of the site is completely irrelevant. What is important is to bypass SSL. Once we actually manage to bypass SSL, the content of the site is irrelevant because once the traffic can be decrypted, it doesn't matter what's on the site, you'll be able to see everything. So the content, once again, they're completely irrelevant. This is just for testing purposes that I have created for you guys. So I've actually registered a domain, brought up a web server in the cloud, and bought an SSL certificate as well. So this is a legit HTTPS connection. Certificate has been imported, functioning. The traffic between me and this site is encrypted. This is not a self-signed certificate. This is something that if you go here, it says verified by Komodo CA Limited. So this is a real SSL certificate that I have purchased, and this is not something that I have created and self-signed. So this is the real deal. Anyway, I have not configured this web server to go for the HTTPS, where the HTTPS protocol is strictly enforced, whereby no HTTP connections are actually possible. But rather instead, I have just left it at HTTPS. That's going to be the first part of this demo. The second part is where we will actually go and see what we can do about the HSTS. Then I will reconfigure the server for HSTS, and then we'll see what happens there. Now, look, even though this site is HTTPS, right? It's clearly HTTPS. There you have a lock here. I'm going to go to my victim machine and open up a web browser. And I shall type in www. And here I've already opened it before, and I shall press enter. And it's loading. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, it's proxying the responses. That's nice. And there you go. It takes me to the fake site. It says here, fake site. Where did this fake site come from? Well, on the Kali machine, I have created another site, which is the exact copy of the one I have, which is the exact copy of the real site, except for the fact that in the title it says fake site. So let me just do cat var. Don't worry, I will show you how to copy websites. I'll literally show you a tool which you can use in order to copy an entire website. You won't need to do this manually. HTML, index.html, and you can see that this is the entirety of the site. it doesn't matter. It says username and password, input. It doesn't actually go anywhere. And here it just says fake site, while here it says real site. So I just placed those two small differences so that you could tell. And take a look at this. It's not HTTPS at all. It's HTTP regardless. So this technique that I'm employing with the DNS redirections actually works on a vast amount of HTTPS sites. So it doesn't matter if a site is HTTPS or HTTP, this is going to work. As I said, this is not a self-signed certificate for this site. This is a real certificate. And now that I basically have this, now that there is a redirection on the victim machine to this site, whatever the user types in here, I will be able to sniff out and see on the network. How that is done, I will also show you, of course. But this is the most important part, to get rid of the HTTPS. So that's the primary problem. Once you're rid of that, and once the traffic is going over your network, grabbing the actual traffic is a piece of cake, basically. That's very easy. So my technique, well, I don't know, it's not actually my technique, it's the technique that was invented that I'm just demonstrating here, works. So it works for HTTPS sites. It doesn't work for all HTTPS sites, but it works for a vast amount of them. Now, I am able to protect myself against this if I reconfigure the web server hosting the real site to redirect all connections on port 80 to port 443. Once that happens, and once I actually implement the protocols, and once I actually put the lines of code to enforce the HTTPS no matter what, then this vector of attack will no longer be possible. How we will bypass that we'll see in part 2, but before that, let's go ahead and see how we can grab the username and password on this site. And by the way, this technique can also work for pretty much any other website. There are no real differences between this site and any other site out there aside from the looks, but the web server, you're not trying to compromise the site itself through the content of the site, but rather instead you're trying to compromise the encryption of the site. Once that is compromised, you basically can do whatever you want with the traffic that goes over your network. Okay, so I'm gonna bid you farewell here, and we shall see each other in the follow-up tutorial where I will show you how to actually take the credentials, and then we will go into the HSTS. Okay, so I am still on the fake website here, and here I am on Kali. So for the sake of demonstration, I have told you that I have indeed made a file. So var www html cat index.html. So I've just manually made a copy here of the website, and I've placed the header fake site so that we know that we're actually accessing the fake website. In some of the instructional videos out there on the net, you will find that people are using set toolkit, and I have used it before. However, I don't know, there are some problems with it when cloning websites. There can be a lot of problems with it. It can be still used though. I have used it, but I personally have encountered problems, so I thought to myself, let's not use it for this course because I don't want you encountering the same problems. Rather instead, I'm gonna go ahead and create a separate short chapter on how to clone websites. So for this demo, I'm just using this simple thing as a demo, but in a separate chapter, I will simply show you how you can clone sites of any complexity, although the greater the complexity of the site, the longer will the cloning process take. Anyway, that's going to be a separate video. For the time being, let us see how the credentials can be harvested. So first off, the syntax file is here. That's fine. So with the set toolkit, you can actually just monitor your file, and then you're eventually going to get a username and a password, which is, I wouldn't rely on it that much, not now. Rather instead, I prefer to rely on Wireshark. So I have a perfectly viable network sniffer. Okay, if you get this error, that's fine. No problem. Just click on OK. This can sniff any network traffic out there, and since the connections are being made over HTTP on port 80 unencrypted, I'm practically guaranteed to actually capture that username and password. So just open up Wireshark and then begin capturing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and configure my filters prior to the beginning of the capture process. So the first thing I need to do is type in IP dot addr equals to 192.168 dot 122.231, which is the IP address of this machine of Kali. So that's where the web server is running. And then I would like another IP address, so IP addr equals, so this will be my victim machine IP address, 10.42.0, so 10.42.0 and 183.183. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and apply these two filters, press enter, and then I'm going to select interface any, and I shall begin the capture process. That it's clear that there's nothing here now, that's fine, because we have applied some very, very specific filters. Okay, so let's go back to the victim machine, and let's go ahead and type in test and test 1, 2, 3. Submit. And okay, so we're getting something here. And there you go. So I have placed the username and the password in the GET request so that it's a lot simpler for you to see it here. But usually you would look for something like application data or something similar to that and just dig and find. So usually you will be able to see it here. So this is a GET request, and the information is literally exposed up and in the air, so you can see everything here. Full request, and then the username test and password test 1, 2, 3. Okay, granted, this is a pretty dumb login. It doesn't lead anywhere, just generate a get request, which is kind of stupid. But let me go ahead and show you how would an encrypted version of this actually look like. You wouldn't be able to make heads or tails or do anything with it. Instead of waiting for something to happen, let me just go over to google.com maybe, or something like that. Just request anything that's HTTPS. And I saw one. Yep, DSL version 1.2 application data. So let's just double click on it and you'll get this. So this is where the data is supposed to be. Application data encrypted. Say goodbye to anything that's in there. You won't be able to see it. And when it's in HTTP form, to which we have basically forced it with our DNS, you can see whatever it is that you want. Just keep digging through these packets. You're obviously not looking for IPX or DHC or whatever. You're looking for HTTP requests on port 80. And you're most likely either looking for some sort of a GET request or for application data. Once you click on application data, you can double click on it to expand this, and where it says secure socket layer, you're not gonna have secure socket layer, you're gonna have HTTP or something like that here. And when you click on this, you just click on application data and then you read, quite literally, without bigger problems. And you can get the passwords for anything really, as long as this redirect occurs to your own web server, which is on port 80. So you can find the passwords here in Wireshark. You can go looking. This is basically a bulletproof way of doing it. You can use set toolkit. It's a lot simpler than digging manually in Wireshark, but it doesn't always work. From what I've discovered, it's a really good tool. Credits to the creators. But it's kind of buggy. It doesn't always work out. So I'll show you a really nice way of cloning a website as well. Anyway, so what have we learned thus far? You start basically just start a web server. So let me just go ahead and do this and insert. So what have we learned thus far? We have an HTTPS website, and with our DNS proxy, basically, and our honeypot, where we allow people to connect, we have managed to redirect traffic to HTTP site, which looks exactly the same as the HTTPS site. Fortunately for us, this website didn't have HSTS, which is really bad. And I will show you how this can be done with HSTS as well, if I manage to squeeze it in as well. But the point being is that we have successfully managed to force people to go from HTTPS to HTTP. What did we need for that? Well, we needed DNS chef, we needed Apache 2, and one of the last things that we didn't do was site cloning itself, but that will be a separate tutorial. That will be a separate set of tutorials in and of themselves. It's a rather simple process. And we have used Wireshark in order to monitor traffic on the network in order to grab, and then we took a look at the traffic in Wireshark and we managed to extract the relevant information in an unencrypted format, which would usually be encrypted. Anyway, gonna bid you farewell here, and we shall see each other in the follow-up where either the site cloning will go or HSTS, which is kind of difficult. Welcome back, everybody. So, previously I have demonstrated to you how you can fight against HTTPS and how you can create redirects for standard HTTP-based websites without the encryption. But the important part is that you know how to bypass, in a way, the HTTPS. Now, lately, people have come up with rather innovative ways to enforce HTTPS, to enforce the encryption. And then came something called HSTS, which basically made this sort of an attack obsolete so long as the web server on the other end had certain configuration set. And now I have configured my web server for HSTS. And this website, www.erminkrepunch.com, this can no longer be accessed via HTTP at all. So here, just to prove it, I'm going to remove the S and I'm going to deliberately request an unencrypted version of the site from a real connection without any proxies or anything in between. I'm just going to go ahead and request a HTTP version of the site. And let me just go ahead and paste this in here and press enter, and you see it's not going to allow me at all. I'm not going to be able to visit the unencrypted version at all. Now you might think to yourselves, well, why is this a problem? The victim machine is never going to go this far. Well, it doesn't matter if the victim machine has already visited this site and if the browser has been given the expiration time for HSTS. Until that time expires or until it is renewed via some method, it will always request encryption for that domain. It will not be able to access that domain without the encryption. So, as you can see on Kali, we have DNS Chef running, the hotspot is active, the web server is active, and my victim machine is actually still connected to the honeypot that we have created. And if I just open up Firefox, and if I go ahead and type in as before, it's gonna start spinning, and it's not gonna get me to where I want to be. It's gonna want HTTPS. I'm not gonna have anything on my fake web server to basically on my malicious web. Well, not malicious, but on my own web server to. I don't have any HTTPS configuration. I have nothing to serve it, and therefore I am going to get redirected here. This is the case, for example, with Google and PayPal and Facebook and all of these sites. They've implemented this wonderful mechanism whereby they mediate and prevent this sort of attacks. Now, if you want to battle against this, you need to have, there are two things you can do. You can mess around with the network time protocol and mess around with the updates for the requested updates for whether the site should still continue to be accessed by HTTPS or not, because there is an expiry date for this thing. And or you could basically just create your own certificate and then offer it to a person to actually sign the certificate. Most people do. Some don't, but most people click yes. Why? I really don't know, but most people just click yes, sign the certificate, and once they've signed the certificate, you can effectively decrypt all the traffic. Now, let me just go ahead and show you something. My terminal here, this is my web server configuration. If I just clear the screen and I type in cat000default.conf, this is for port 80. So there is no longer, all connections coming in on port 80 will be redirected to the port 443, which is HTTPS. So no more connections on port 80, no more accessing the site via port 80. And if I go ahead and type in defaultssl.conf, I have the header always set strict transport security, so nothing else works. It gives the max age, and this age is passed to the browser, and then the browser will access this domain only via HTTPS for the duration of this period of time. Okay, so in the follow-up tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can fight this. Until then, I bid you farewell. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin our fight with the HSTS. The first thing that we need to do is configure our web server on Kali to actually be able to accept connections on port 443 and to have some sort of a certificate which will actually be served to the visitors. Now, I'm not doing anything on my Windows machine, like quite literally nothing, and it is still making some sort of silly connections, which is very hilarious. Kind of frustrating, actually. But I'm gonna leave all of that just running in the background. Now, we need to go ahead and configure the web server for SSL, so I'm going under the assumption that the web server is actually running. So let's just go ahead and type in apt-get open SSL, and hopefully it's already installed. Sorry, apt-get install OpenSSL. Oh, actually it's not. So we do need to install it. Usually it comes pre-installed. System this already exists. Exiting resolver block initialize. OpenSSL. No, wait. OpenSSL is already the newest version. Automatically installed on our okay, so no big deal. Let me just go ahead and type in apt-get auto remove. Getting some sort of an error here, but it shouldn't actually bother me in the long run. OpenSSL is there, and that's exactly what I need. I'll see if I can actually fix this later on, but for the time being, it's not really all that important. Now, since the web server is running, we need to first type in service Apache to stop, and now we're gonna type in a2 nmod SSL. So we will enable the SSL on our server. That is one of the first things that we will actually need to do. Now we need to, the default website will come with a useful template for SSL, so we will go ahead and activate that now. So a2 and site default-SSL. That's done. Okay, it's telling me that I need to reload and restart the Apache, which is fine. I'm not going to reload it and restart it for every single little thing that I do, but let's do several of them and then perform a reload. Okay, so service Apache 2. God, I'm so used to systemctl. Apache 2 restart. And then reload just in case. Okay, now that we have enabled our Apache web server for incoming connections, which require SSL, we need to go ahead and create a self-signed certificate. Now, in order for us to create a self-signed certificate, we first need to basically just go ahead and create a new directory. Well, not strictly speaking, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway. Apache 2 SSL, and that's gonna be nice. And now we need to go ahead and generate the new certificate and a private key to protect it as well. This is a little bit of a longer command. I should probably copy paste it, but since the shared clipboard is not enabled, I'm just going to go ahead and retype it. So x509 nodes days. I don't know, let's give it a year, so 365. The days flag will just specifies how long should the certificate remain valid. So I've just stated that it's going to be valid for a year. And then I'm going to type in new key, so ARSA, it's going to be ARSA, so let's give it to 48 if you remember the lecture on the VPN. It's a fairly similar procedure, so key out. The key out flag specifies the path, will specify the path to our generated key file. So this is going to be etc/apache2 SSL, and then I'm gonna go ahead and type in, I don't know, Apache key. This is arbitrary, so you don't need to specifically name your key file in this manner. I'm gonna type in out/etc/apache2/SSL. This is this is the path to our generated certificate. So one is the key and the other one is the certificate. So apache.crd. And that should do it, basically. Okay, or not. I hate it when I have to retype these commands like this. I always make an error somewhere. I see where the error lies. It's a dash, not a 0. Okay, so this was fairly fast. If you remember from the web server, this is significantly faster as this machine is has a lot more resources. So here you can specify the parameters for the certificate, and the site that you are trying to copy, you will try to take as many of the same parameters. So you can type in, you can basically leave it at default, or you can just type certain things here. I'm gonna type in, I don't know, US, and what state shall I use? I don't know, what states shall I use? God, there's so many of them. California, I hope that I spelled this right. And the city shall be, I don't know, LA. And the organization name, I'm able to basically type in whatever I want here, but I'm just gonna leave it at default, but feel free to give it an organization name, and organizational unit, you can also type that in. Common name, it's going to be admin.com. So this is the domain that you are trying to for which you are trying to create the SSL certificate. So since I am targeting this domain, which is I will go ahead and type in that domain name. And email address, I'm just gonna type in test@test.com. So this doesn't really matter at all. Excellent. So now I have actually done that. Now we need to go ahead and play around with the permissions a little bit. So let's give it 600 to Etsy Apache 2 SSL, and then wildcard for everything in there to have the permission of 600. If I go into Etsy Apache 2 SSL, if I do ls-l, you will see that only the root has read and write permissions to the apache.cert and apache.key. Now, what we need to do is actually configure our Apache. Aside from giving it the ability to use the SSL, and aside from creating the keys and all that, we also need to configure our Apache web server to actually tell it to do it. So we shall type in vim etsy apache 2 sites enabled default SSL conf, and here we can start playing around a little bit. So it says here server. I'm just gonna go ahead and enter the insert mode. So server admin. So below it, I'm just gonna type in server name, which is gonna be manage.com, and this is going to be on 443.com. Yep, there we go. So this is going to be on port 443. Go ahead and press escape because I need to find SSL certificate. SSL certificate file. Yep, so this is what I was looking for, and it's going to be Etsy SSL. Well, that's not really our path, so let's just go ahead and delete that completely. And I'm just gonna go ahead and enter the insert mode and type in /Etsy Apache 2. Be very careful with the path. You must specify the correct one. If you don't, this is not going to work. Apache.crt. Okay, and down below, we're gonna pretty much do the same thing. It's going to be SSL certificate key file. So SSL certificate key file, we need to type in /Etsy /Apache 2 /SSL /Apache.key. Okay, that's great. So once these changes have been made, you just need to basically check if the virtual host configuration file has everything enabled. So aside from the certificate file and the certificate key file, we need to make sure that the SSL engine is actually turned on. So let's go ahead and press escape and type in SSL engine on. So that's great, that's fantastic. Let's go ahead and write and quit, and then we're gonna type in service Apache 2 reload. Excellent. So we have actually reloaded it, and it should be perfectly functional now. Let me just go ahead and type in ipconfig. ipconfig. God, ipconfig. Oh my god, ifconfig. ipconfig is for Windows. I've been doing some work on it, so it just stayed with me. So this is the IP address of 192.168.122. Let me just go ahead and go over to my victim machine. And let's just go ahead and see if the SSL certificate will actually be served. So 168.122.231. Okay, so this is the regular site. Let's go ahead and attempt HTTPS://. Okay, so it does give me the option to actually add the exception. Excellent. So our web server is perfectly functional. It's able to serve the SSL, it's able to serve the HTTPS connections. So let's go ahead and see how this would work out in a scenario through a demo. Let's go ahead and use the DNS spoof and then do a redirect and then see what happens when a user would encounter a site with a self-signed certificate. Okay, now that our web server is configured to accept traffic on port 443, we're gonna go ahead and have a look at how this actually works. So the client should be offered to actually sign the certificate. Let's go ahead and type in right HTTPS adminmanage.com. Just go ahead and write www dot, and it's gonna tell me, it's gonna give me the option to sign it. It's not gonna give me the option to sign it. Let me just go ahead and say, oh look, yep, add exception. So add except, so you will basically just click on advanced, add exception, confirm security exception, and there you go. You are on the fake website. So it redirects you there, and this is our Kali server running on this domain. So as long as somebody clicks on sign certificate, they're gonna go here, and they have to sign it because they won't really be able to access. I mean, they're gonna have a ridiculous amount of difficulty. They're gonna have problems accessing the site unless they click sign. Most people click on sign. The sign interfaces are sometimes a little bit more complicated, sometimes a little bit simpler. I think that with Internet Explorer, they're the simplest. With Firefox, they've made it a little bit more difficult. Anyway, now that we have HTTPS connection and the client is actually on our fake website, let's go ahead and create that code which will harvest the credentials for us. Now keep in mind, the following code can be inserted pretty much anywhere. So any site that is cloned, you can inject this code, you can write this code manually into the clone site in the right place, and it will harness the credentials for you. Upon harvesting the credentials, it will actually redirect the user to the legitimate website. So I am still on the fake website on Windows, and I need to do a few modifications here. So ls. Okay, so this is from the previous tries. Let me just go ahead and, well, actually, index.html can stay. Well, let's go ahead and write it. It's not very long. It's a very small injection that you can create. And very convenient. Okay, so you will need the entirety of this code that is written out here, like from top to bottom. It needs to be exactly the same. And on any site, you will have some sort of form where users will be able to log in. So you will have some place where you type in the username and the password, adapt accordingly. And in the form where the username and password are inputted, you will need to add this. So action equals harvester.php method post. Now this harvester is just a arbitrary name. I have named it harvester, but you can name it however you want. So this is basically our site, and this is the script which we will be injecting. And now we need to go ahead and write that script. So just rewrite the code, the HTML code that is here. Basically, just assume that all of this is simply a cloned website. And in the form where you have the username and password, you just inject the action equals harvester.php so that this script would be executed upon the user typing in their credentials. Now, I need to create the harvester.php. So harvester.php harvester. Let me just go ahead and check it out. Harvest. Oh, right, it's harvest. Control-Shift-C. Quit. VIM. Harvest.php. Okay. So, here we need to create our very, very short PHP script. It doesn't need to be complicated, but the fact that it's not complicated doesn't mean that it's not powerful and that it does not perform, that it will not do what we want it to do. So, this is not a tutorial on PHP, but I'm just going to give you a brief shock intro. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable data, and into it we will store the username and password in some sort of format. So underline post, and we're going to go ahead and do this username. The username here needs to match the name over there. So the name over there is username and the name here is also username. In fact, let me go ahead and open up another terminal for you so that you can actually monitor what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so name equals username and it needs to be username here. So just whichever site is cloned, well, aside from the fact that you need the permission, make sure that you change the script accordingly. So you don't need to change the logic of the script, just certain names within the script if they are different. And we're gonna concatenate that with a dash, so we'll have a format like username and then dash, and then you'll have a password. And then let's go ahead and concatenate that with a password. So post password, something this is what set toolkit would do, something similar to this, except it will clone the entire site for you, but I will also show you how you can clone the sites. And we can go ahead and insert a new line here. It doesn't, let's just insert a new line, doesn't matter. And then we're gonna go ahead and type in my file. So this shall be equal to, how shall we name this? Credentials.txt. It doesn't need to be called credentials.txt. You can name it pretty much whatever you want. I mean, not a big deal. But we just need the quote marks here for the name of the file. Didn't place that one there. So you can name your file however you want. It doesn't really matter. It can be tralala.txt. I don't think that it even needs to be a txt. And then we need a file handler, which is going to be equal to fopen. And we're gonna go ahead and state credentials. Let me just see if I'm typing in this right. fh equals fopen, then open these up. Now let's place a comma here, and then a w here. W is for writing to the file. Or if it cannot open the file, just go ahead and die. And then I'm gonna type in can't open file, just a debug thing. I mean, you don't even need to write this, but hey, it's nice to actually have it there. If for some strange reason the file cannot be opened, you can be warned of that. Next up, we're gonna type in write, so we're gonna write to the file, and we're gonna use the file handler for that. File handler for that, and then we're gonna go ahead and type in data. And then we need to close the file when we're basically done with it. So close fh. Okay, so that should be it, right? Let me just go ahead and check that. Right. It's not supposed to be credentials here. It's supposed to be my file. My apologies. So my file is the variable and credentials is the actual text file. Don't know why I got those two confused there. Okay, so for the time being, I'm not gonna enable the redirect, but redirect is just one very short line of code. However, let's just see how this works for the time being. Let's go ahead and write quit. And we're gonna quit here. So that should be fine. And let's go ahead and reload the site and type in test 1, 2, 3. Submitting a can't open file. Okay, so a simple enough error which we're gonna solve very shortly. So we need to create the file. So touch credentials.txt, And we need to do chmod. And I'm just going to go ahead and type in 666. Initials and do lsl. Read write for everyone. So 666 is read and write privileges for everybody. All around writing privileges. Okay, let me just go back and submit now. Okay, nothing happens there, which is what we wanted. So just cat credentials, and there you go. So you have test, and then you have test123, which is the password. So very, very, very simple. Now, if you wanted to create a redirect, I'm running a little bit short in terms of time, so we're gonna just go ahead and do that in the follow-up tutorial. It's gonna be very short and simple. Okay, welcome back. So, today I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up by just showing you how you can basically redirect the user to the real website upon harvesting the credentials themselves. Few keynotes here. Upon each successful collection, you will need to recreate this file. So just repeat the process. Remove the file and then create it again. Just the way that the script works. There's one very small change. You need to add 2 lines of code to harvest.php. So let me just go ahead and do this. You will need to add sleep for 2 seconds, and then you will need a header to where, just header function there, method, whatever you want to call it. Where do you want this redirect to actually go? And it's gonna go to the real website. So just adjust the domains accordingly here. And then I have a very small script here for you. I've done some testing. Let me just go ahead and zoom this in a little bit more. And I've made a very small file. I've made a very small script. You just type in vim monitor.sh. Well, actually, you can type in touch monitor.sh. Press enter, and then type in chmod plus x monitor.sh, and this is going to get execution privileges to your monitor.sh file. Now go ahead and type in vim monitor.sh, press I to enter the insert mode, and this is really it. This is the entirety of the script. Let me just go shortly over it and what it is that I'm doing. So I'm creating a bash script, so I'm specifying the interpreter here at the top. That is going to be bash. Next up, I'm creating the PID variable. The name is arbitrary for the variable, and I'm going to store into the PID variable the output of this a little bit longer command. So this $sign and parentheses here basically state take the output of this and put it into this variable, which is going to be basically it's going to be the PID of a process. So this we will use in order to terminate DNS chef. So we need to get the PID of the DNS chef process, and then we need to terminate it. So let me just go ahead and go over these one by one. PS AUX gives you a listing of all the processes. PS AUX pipe, so we're piping this, so we're pushing this to another command. Grep DNS chef. This is going to grep all the processes which have DNS chef in the name. Unfortunately, it's going to output our grep, because grep itself is a process which contains DNS chef, so this output will be there as well, which is really bad, as we're gonna get 2 PIDs. And now we want to, well, let me just go ahead and leave that, and now we want to invert that, so we shall type in grep-v. So grep, we're piping the output of this into grep, and then we're piping the grep output into yet another grep. And the -v option is basically inverse. So give me all the lines that do not contain this line. And if I type in grep, so all the lines that do not contain grep, and this line contains grep, while this one above does not contain it. If I press enter, I'm going to get only one line. Never mind that it's printed in 2 lines here, it just can't fit on the screen. So now I'm after this number here, which is the PID. and you can look at the above command in the script as I am typing this in. So now I shall pipe all of this to the awk. Awk is used to basically pull out certain elements of a string. Let's put it like that. You can look at the man pages of awk if you want. The default file delimiter is space, so I don't need to. I think it's space or tab, doesn't really matter. It works the way I have written it. I do believe that it's space. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can check it out in the man pages of awk. Just type in man space awk and you will find it there. So I want to print out the %sign, $1, and this is strangely going to give me root. I must be doing something wrong here. So let me just go ahead and copy paste this command because I'm doing something incredibly stupid here. Okay, let me just compare them. So ps.ux grep DNS chef grep -v grep print. Okay, seriously. Very interesting. Didn't really see this one coming. Ah, right. My apologies. It's PSAXF. I'm so sorry. PSAXF, which is going to give you a more detailed outline of all the processes that are running, and it's going to put the PID in the first place. Therefore, this is going to work. So my apologies there. This shouldn't make a difference, and this space here shouldn't make a difference for some strange reason I thought it would. So it cannot be AUX. Well, it can. You just need to change the awk, so you can just print a second field. And let me go ahead and AXF, and that's gonna print that out. But let me just do it like this. So awk basically prints the first thing. So this is the first, and then you have a space, and then you have the second field, and then you have the third field, and then the fourth, sixth, the seventh, and so on and so forth. Every space is the next field, except you're not going to take the first one into consideration. Why? Well, there is nothing there. Or it's not even a space, I don't know. But it does work the way I have written it here. It's rather simplistic. So this is going to give you the PID of a particular process, and in order to kill a process you need to know the PID. So if you type in kill 3157, this is definitely going to kill the DNS chef. Therefore, I have inserted that command here. So let me just go ahead and I find this incredibly annoying. The script is not very polished. Just some scrap that I have written that works for the purpose. And that's what people usually do. They just write, that's what, in my opinion, Bash is intended for, to just write short scripts for the purpose at hand. Anyway, this echo PID is really not necessary. I've just placed it there for debugging reasons so that it prints out the PID of the process onto the screen, but this script will definitely work without this echo statement here. It just basically prints this value here onto the screen. Now, this value, the output of this, so the output of this command is this value, and this value in this script will be stored in the variable PID. I'm going to echo that variable out onto the screen, although strictly speaking it is not necessary here at all for the functioning with the script, just there for the debugging purposes. Then I'm going to use the tail-f, and I have written here test, which is my test file, so let me just go ahead and do this. ls, I do have a test, so I'll just do cat test. Okay, nothing in it. Great. If you need to create a test file, you can just type in touch, and then the name of the file. Mine will be named test. At the moment, it is completely empty. If I type in tail-f test, this is going to provide me with the live monitoring of the file status. So whatever changes are enacted onto test, they will be printed out here on the screen. Here, let me just show you that with another terminal. So if I do echo blah something and then output it into test, you can see immediately that this is going to go into okay, terminated, I don't know, because I guess it wasn't fully empty because reasons. So let me just go ahead, rm test, and then let me just go ahead, touch test, and then let me do tailf test, and then let's go ahead and do this, and there you go. So it actually prints it out here because tail-f monitors live changes to the file, which is great. So let me just do this one more time and do touch test to recreate it. Okay, so we have established that. Okay, let me just go ahead and close this terminal, as I don't believe that I shall need it. We established that tail-f monitors changes to a file. For the time being, that file name is test. We shall change this to credentials.txt. And then we're piping the output of tail with the pipe here into the while loop. So we're gonna keep on reading this output, and we're gonna be placing it into the variable line. And then we're gonna create this is the loop body, basically just do and done. And then within the body of the loop, we have an if statement, which basically states that if we're gonna take the value of the line, if line at any point of time becomes populated with something, it will definitely, this basically states not equal to. So if line is populated by some sort of a string, it will definitely be not equal to an empty string here. And if it is not equal to an empty string, meaning if it is populated by something, by the username and password, if this file gets populated by username and password, the output will be placed into line, and line will no longer be equal to an empty string here. And then we're gonna go into the body of the if statement, so it's then and fi. And we're going to type in kill, and then we're going to take the value of the PID variable, which is the process, and for debugging reasons, I've just typed in echo done. This is going to work without done, but it's nice to have it there for the script to actually tell you when it is finished. Okay, so let me just go ahead and right quit here. Need to do chmod, I've already mentioned that. And let me go ahead and execute the script. So you type in /monitor.sh, press enter. Okay, it prints out the PID, and you can see that the DNS chef is running here. Let me just go ahead and hold on. There's 10. Let me just go ahead and pause this machine. So the DNS chef is actually running here without any problems of whatsoever. So it is running there. And the script is also running. It's not going to kill it so long as the test file is empty. So I've just scattered it out, it's completely empty. But let's go ahead and type in echo, I don't know, HHHH. Actually, let's go ahead and echo username our format for username and password. So username, password, and we're gonna echo this into test and take a look at what happens. Now watch the DNS chef in the background. It should shut down, or I am going to terribly embarrass myself. And there you go. It actually kills it. It tells you that it's done, and as soon as the file got populated by something. So just press Ctrl-C here to terminate everything, and it's done and over with, nothing to worry or think about anymore. And once the DNS chef is terminated, then the PHP will sleep for 2 seconds, and then it will actually redirect the user to the real site so that the user doesn't notice anything suspicious. Because just answer me honestly, how many people, when you type in, if you typed in the username and password, and if the site just reloads, what do you think has happened? In all likelihood, 99% of the population, in my opinion, will simply think to themselves, oh, I must have typed in something wrong, let's just retype it. I belong to this 99%. So they'll just retype the username and password, and they will be able to log into the real site without any problems. Okay, So let me just go ahead and reinstate DNS Chef. You need to start DNS Chef in a separate terminal away from the script. And I mean, I could have done some work to actually put DNS Chef into the script as well, but no need. It was better like this so that you can actually see that it does indeed get shut down. Okay, so the monitor.sh can remain where it is, but we need to go into cd var www html and do ls, and we have credentials.txt, which we have previously created and changed the permissions for it. So now what we need to do is modify the script a little bit, and by a little bit we just need to change the path of the file. So let's just go ahead and type in insert, just type in /var/www/html, and I would recommend actually copy pasting the name of the file, so Control-Shift-C and Control-Shift-V, so that you are absolutely certain. And great, I forgot a slash here. So let's make sure that it is empty. It is completely empty, so we're just gonna write the changes to the file here. So right quit, that's all we needed to do, just change the path so that it actually monitors a different file. Okay, so that's done, and I hope that you've cat harvest PHP. Make sure that you have these two lines here that I have mentioned, so sleep for 2 seconds and then redirect the user to this location, which is again our website, except this time the DNS Chef won't actually be operational at all. Okay, so let's go ahead. It doesn't matter where your monitor.sh script is as long as the paths are in there. So let's go ahead and begin this script. So the script is functional. HTOP, I don't have it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually take a lot of CPU usage at all. It's fair. I can see it on my. Let me just go ahead and do this, and then scroll. And here you can see that the Kali hotspot, it's not actually using that much of the CPU. Okay, this is not gonna work the way. I'm sorry if I'm giving you headaches. But anyway, you can see here that the CPU usage is very, very low. I could have installed HTOP, but I'm just kind of lazy and I don't want to wait for it to actually finish. Okay, so DNS Chef is running, our custom script is running, our custom scripts on the server are also running, and now let's go over here. Let's type in test and test 1, 2, 3. So submit. And this is not going to work for a redirect. Okay, what have we done wrong? So this has actually been terminated. Probably due to the PHP's nature that it's a server-side language and unable to actually execute this. But let's go ahead and modify our file. Vim harvest.php. Let's go ahead and remove this line and then just right quit, remove the sleep line, which is basically gonna kill our guarantee, but it should actually work this time around. Okay, let's just restart the script. Alright. You see, you gotta credentials and such credentials and chmod 666 credentials, and then we're gonna fire up the script. Okay, we cannot fire up the script because this one is not running. Let me just go ahead and rerun it. Fire up the script. Okay, we get the PI. You see why this is good? It actually, if it doesn't print anything out, then there is no process. No process has been found. It's very nice to actually have it there. So let's go ahead and type in test and test 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we got a successful redirect, but unfortunately it's to the harvest.php. Okay, so I did not actually test this one. I did not actually test the redirect out, so let's go ahead and I am harvest.php. Let me just go ahead and modify this a little bit more, the actual redirect location, and then I'll come back to it. It's a very simple fix, but I really don't feel like browsing it on the web and doing the explanations at the same time. So the next tutorial will probably be the last one in the series. Okay, turns out I was just a little bit stupid. I'm not a PHP expert, so don't hang me on this one. I really am not. I actually kind of despise PHP. I never aspired to learn it more than I actually needed to know. So just change sleep to maybe 5 or 4, something like that, and that should be fine. That should give us enough time. Also, I have modified the monitor file a little bit. I've just added this one single line here in the if statement. It just cats out the credentials.txt onto the screen. Why? Well, so that we can so that it prints out the username and password that has actually been saved. You can also add something like, okay, print it out, then delete it, then recreate it, then set the permissions. So just add a bunch of commands down there if you want to automate that process. Okay, so the monitoring is on. This is on. The server, the web server is running. I am here. Let's go ahead and type in test and test 1, 2, 3, and then let's go ahead and submit this. Okay, it's spinning, and there we go. It sends us to the real website. So let's go ahead and see if we've actually harvested anything. Yes, indeed we have. We have harvested the username test and the password test 1, 2, 3. Voila, there we go. Over and done with. Now, to conclude this chapter, I would like to ask you all a personal favor, not to hang me for my shortcomings. I know that my code can be a little bit messy and that I can make some silly and stupid mistakes. With Bash, no, not really, but with PHP, oh my god, I can make a lot of really stupid ones. Anyway, I think you can shorten the time down to 3 or to 4. 3 would be ideal, but I don't think that anybody is going to notice that the site actually loads for like 5 seconds. I don't think that anybody's going to be... if you can experiment with a little bit less. The timings, there are no guarantees, but I mean, this process is going to get killed within 5 seconds. Of that we can rest assured. I mean, within less than 5 seconds. Anyway, please don't hang me. Enjoy the tutorial. You have the scripts here. I can post them on GitHub if you really need me to, but I really don't think that there is a need. They're really short scripts. You can see them from the screen and just rewrite them yourselves without bigger problems. So the fact that this has been cat out here on the screen doesn't mean that it wasn't saved in this file. If I do cat credentials, it's within the file, so don't worry about it. They have been saved there. You can just press Ctrl+C here to terminate this. So this is basically the entire script. I'm showing you the entire script on the screen, and you should be able to type this. I don't think that I should need to post this on GitHub, but if you really need me to do it that badly, I actually might do it. Change the scripts accordingly to fit your needs. Change the domain names to fit accordingly to your needs. Please do not do anything without prior permission or without actually doing it on the systems that you yourselves own. Anyway, I'm gonna bid you farewell here, and this shall conclude this rather lengthy chapter.